The ground trembles and ancient stone groans under immense pressure. What hidden treasures does the earth surrender when it cracks open? We are about to uncover 30 of the most astonishing artifacts ever found, each one violently revealed by the force of an earthquake. By the end of this journey, you will witness history rewritten by the planet's own destructive power. We will see mythical creatures pulled from legend and entire cities resurrected from mud and ash. What do you believe is still buried, waiting for the next great shake to bring it into the light? A violent tremor off the coast of Crete in 2021 did more than just shake the island. It cracked open a 2,000-year-old mystery thought to be solved. The Antikythera Mechanism, that legendary lump of corroded bronze pulled from a Roman shipwreck, had been studied for over a century. Experts believed they understood its secrets as the world's first analog computer, predicting planetary movements and eclipses, but the earthquake revealed they had only seen the surface. A deep, resonant scan of the artifact, prompted by new fractures, uncovered a hidden internal chamber no one knew existed. Inside that secret space, researchers found a new set of pristine bronze gears, perfectly preserved in an airless void. They were smaller and more intricate than any of the known components. Alongside them were thin sheets of metal inscribed with text, a lost user's manual etched in Greek. These new inscriptions did not just confirm the mechanism's known functions. They described astronomical cycles so complex and so long that they reference events thousands of years into the future from the perspective of its ancient creators. This was not merely a calculator for the next eclipse. It was a device built to model the cosmos across vast, almost philosophical stretches of time. The discovery forces a complete and humbling reassessment of ancient Greek technology. We can no longer view this device as a singular, miraculous fluke. The precision and foresight required to build such a machine, and then to hide its most advanced components within a sealed chamber, suggests a level of engineering and scientific ambition that rivals our own digital age. This one artifact, violently shaken back into the spotlight, proves that our historical timeline of technological progress is not a straight line, but a circle, with knowledge being lost and found again through the cracks in the earth. That profound understanding of time itself, encoded in bronze, finds a strange echo in the dry soil of central Turkey. Decades before the Antikythera Mechanism revealed its deeper secrets, the Earth had already performed a similar act of revelation on a much grander scale. In 1906, a powerful earthquake shook the ancient region of Anatolia, its tremors so violent they split a hillside wide open. When the dust settled, local farmers saw something impossible, the outline of a vast man-made structure that had been buried for millennia. This was not a tomb or a simple dwelling. It was the lost library of Hattusa, the royal capital of the Hittite Empire, a Bronze Age superpower that had vanished from history almost 3,000 years earlier. The earthquake had effectively unsealed the imperial archives. Inside, archaeologists would eventually uncover not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of baked clay tablets, all covered in intricate cuneiform script. These were not mere lists or simple records. They were the complete operational manual for running a vast empire, a collection so comprehensive it single-handedly resurrected a civilization from total obscurity. Before this discovery, the Hittites were little more than a name mentioned in the Bible and a few Egyptian texts, a shadowy people of uncertain origin. The library of Hattusa changed everything. The tablets were a sprawling collection of every aspect of statecraft, from meticulous legal codes and detailed treaties to complex religious rituals and ambitious military campaigns. One of the most astounding finds was a tablet that contained the text of a peace treaty between the Hittite Empire and ancient Egypt, signed after the famous Battle of Kadesh. It was a document of such diplomatic sophistication, establishing borders and promising mutual aid, that it forced historians to completely rewrite their understanding of international relations in the ancient world. This was not primitive bartering, it was high-stakes geopolitics recorded on clay. The earthquake did not just expose a room full of old clay, it cracked open a window into a forgotten world of emperors, diplomats, and scholars, proving that an entire chapter of human history was waiting, quite literally, for the right shake to bring it back to light. That same earth-shattering power which resurrected empires from Turkish hillsides was also at work on the other side of the world, rewriting the history of China's first emperor. In 1976, a farmer in Shaanxi province was digging a well after a series of tremors had fractured the local landscape. His shovel did not strike water, but instead hit something hard and unyielding, the fired clay head of a soldier. This accidental discovery, prompted by the Earth's own restlessness, would soon unveil the now legendary Terracotta Army, a silent legion built to guard Emperor Qin Shi Huang in the afterlife. While the thousands of unique warrior statues are a marvel in themselves, it was a later excavation deep within the confines of the vast necropolis that revealed a find that blurred the line between history and myth. Archaeologists uncovered a life-sized, fully articulated bronze dragon. This was not a solid statue, but a complex mechanical construct, its body segments connected with internal pins that allowed its neck and tail to sway with a startling, serpentine grace. The creature's jaws were hinged, and its claws were cast with such sharp, meticulous detail that it seemed ready to spring to life. What was the purpose of such an elaborate and fearsome bronze beast? It was not merely a decorative tribute. This dragon was a guardian, a mythical sentinel placed at a crucial spiritual gateway within the emperor's tomb complex. Its articulated design suggests it may have been engineered to move, perhaps manipulated by priests during rituals to symbolize the emperor's divine power and his command over the celestial forces. The earthquake did not just lead farmers to an army of clay men. It ultimately guided us to a creature of legend, confirming that the emperor's protection in the afterlife was not entrusted to soldiers alone, but also to the most potent symbol of Chinese power and mythology, forged in bronze and given form by the planet's own violent tremors. The silent, stony gaze of Easter Island's moai has captivated the world for centuries. For generations, we believed these enigmatic giants were simply colossal heads planted in the earth, their expressions a permanent mystery. But the truth, it turns, was buried just beneath our feet, waiting for a cataclysm to reveal it. In 1960, the most powerful earthquake ever recorded shook the coast of Chile. Its force was so immense that it generated tsunamis which raced across the entire Pacific Ocean. When these towering waves crashed upon the shores of remote Easter Island, they did more than just erode the coastline. They performed a violent act of archaeological excavation. The churning water scoured away tons of sand and soil from the base of the moai statues. As the ocean retreated, it left behind an impossible sight. The moai were not heads at all. They had shoulders, torsos, and full bodies buried deep underground. These weren't just simple pillars, they were complete figures, intricately carved from head to toe, and their buried bodies were a canvas. Etched into the stone were petroglyphs, a complex tapestry of symbols and images that had been hidden from view for centuries. These carvings were not mere decoration, they were a chronicle. They depicted the history of the Rapa Nui people who carved them, showing their voyages across the sea, their reverence for the ancestors the moai represented, and crucially, the events that led to their society's tragic collapse. The symbols tell a story of a once thriving culture that fell into crisis, with images that suggest deforestation, resource wars, and a painful societal breakdown. Before this quake-driven revelation, the fate of Easter Island's people was a subject of fierce debate. Were they wiped out by outsiders, or did they falter from within? The story written on the statues themselves points to a slow, internal unraveling, a cautionary tale of an island paradise that consumed its own resources. The earthquake did not just give the Moai their bodies back, it gave them a voice. It forced us to listen to a story of ecological and social crisis carved in stone, a narrative of rise and fall that had been waiting underground for a natural disaster to finally tell it. Sometimes the most breathtaking discoveries are not made in distant deserts or deep oceans, but right inside our own homes. In 1963, a man in the Cappadocia region of Turkey was simply renovating his basement. A series of small, persistent tremors had rattled the area, and one of his walls had developed a significant crack. Deciding it was easier to knock it down and rebuild, he swung his sledgehammer. The wall crumbled away, but instead of revealing solid earth or another room, it opened into a dark, seemingly bottomless void. A cool, ancient draft of air whispered back at him. He had just accidentally discovered the entrance to the lost underground city of Derinkuyu. What he initially thought was a small cave turned out to be the top level of a staggering subterranean metropolis, a labyrinth carved directly into the soft volcanic rock. This was not a simple shelter. It was a self-contained world, an engineering marvel descending 18 stories deep into the earth, capable of housing up to 20,000 people for months at a time. The city was a maze of living quarters, stables for livestock, intricate churches with vaulted ceilings, communal kitchens, and even sophisticated wine and oil presses. Most astonishing were the ventilation shafts, 52 of them in total, which provided fresh air to even the deepest levels, and massive, circular stone doors, each weighing half a ton, that could be rolled across corridors to seal off the city from any intruders. The earthquake did not just crack a single wall, it tore open a curtain on a forgotten way of life. For centuries, this entire city had existed just beneath the feet of the modern residents above, a silent, stone testament to human ingenuity and the primal need for safety. It was built and expanded over generations, likely by early Christians and others seeking refuge from waves of invasion and religious persecution. The city's very existence rewrites our understanding of ancient urban planning and survival. It proves that when faced with existential threats, our ancestors did not just flee, they went deep, creating entire civilizations in the dark, waiting for the world above to become safe again. This hidden world makes you wonder what other vast, silent cities might be sleeping beneath the streets we walk every day. Deep beneath the soil of Sichuan province, a different kind of civilization was waiting for its moment. In 2019, a powerful earthquake caused a section of ground near the known Sangsingdui archaeological site to suddenly sink, collapsing into a previously hidden cavity. When researchers investigated this new chasm, their lights illuminated something that defied all expectations. It was a sacrificial pit, but one filled not with the familiar artifacts of ancient China, but with objects of pure, breathtaking fantasy. Towering above everything else were colossal bronze trees, some standing over 10 feet tall. These were not simple sculptures. Their branches, intricate and sprawling, were adorned with hanging leaves, delicate flowers, and perched birds with sweeping tails. Coiling around the trunks were sinuous, stylized dragons, their forms so fluid they seemed to be moving. The artistic style was a complete shock, utterly unlike the more formal and restrained bronzes of the contemporary Shang dynasty. This was the art of a people who had been entirely lost to history, a culture so distinct it possessed its own mythology and worldview. The trees themselves are believed to represent a cosmic axis, a ladder connecting the earth to the heavens, with the birds serving as messengers and the dragons symbolizing powerful, perhaps divine, forces. The earthquake had not just uncovered a few interesting relics, it had torn a hole in our historical map, revealing a kingdom of staggering artistic and spiritual sophistication that flourished alongside the great dynasties of the Yellow River Valley, yet followed a completely different path. Who were these people, and why did their vibrant culture vanish so completely that only the planet's most violent shudders could bring them back into the light? That same power to reveal hidden worlds beneath our feet also works its magic beneath the waves. Decades after the Vasa warship was raised from the murky depths of Stockholm's harbour, the story of its tragic 17th century maiden voyage seemed complete. The ship itself was a magnificent museum piece, but the harbour floor was thought to have given up all its secrets. Then, in the mid-1990s, a minor but focused seismic tremor rattled the seabed. This subtle shift in the Earth did not damage the ship, but it did something just as important. It moved a thick layer of protective silt that had settled over a forgotten object. Sonar scans of the area conducted after the tremor detected a new, solid anomaly resting where none had been before. Divers were sent down and their hands, probing the cold mud, closed around the rusted handles of a heavy, locked iron chest. It was not part of the ship's official cargo, but a private possession, lost in the chaos of the sinking and buried for centuries. The chest was so well preserved by the cold, oxygen-poor Baltic water that its iron lock had to be carefully drilled open by conservators. Everyone expected to find coins or perhaps silver, the traditional treasures of a sunken vessel. Instead, they found a life. The chest contained the perfectly preserved world of the ship's carpenter, a man named Elias. There were his tools, each one meticulously maintained, their wooden handles smoothed by years of use. There was a small, leather-bound diary, its pages still legible, filled with his personal notes on the ship's final construction phase and his worries about its stability. And most poignant of all, tucked safely inside a wax-sealed pouch, was a tiny, hand-painted miniature portrait of his family, his wife and 2 young children, their faces frozen in a moment of hope from a day before the ship ever left the dock. This chest was not a treasure of gold, but of humanity. It transformed the Vasa from a grand failure of naval engineering into a deeply personal tragedy. The earthquake's ripple did not unveil a king's ransom. It exhumed a father's memory, giving a name, a face, and a story to one of the hundreds who vanished into the deep on that fateful day. A landslide triggered by a 2007 earthquake in Peru peeled back a mountainside like the skin of an orange. Underneath the scrub and dust, a new giant was sleeping. When survey planes flew over the region, their cameras captured a form that no one had ever seen before. A colossal geoglyph of a sprawling, multi-headed serpent, its body coiling across the newly exposed earth. This was not a small marking, but a monumental addition to the famous Nazca lines, a design so vast it could only be comprehended from high in the air. The discovery sent a shockwave through archaeology. For decades, we thought we had a complete catalogue of the desert drawings, that we understood their scope. This new serpent, violently unveiled, proved that we had only been seeing a fraction of the canvas. The sheer audacity of its design raises profound questions. Why a multi-headed creature? In Andean mythology, such serpents are often guardians of the underworld, connectors between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Was this glyph a spiritual map, a boundary marker for a sacred zone, or a warning? Its placement high on a newly revealed slope suggests it was intended to be seen not just from the air, but perhaps by the gods themselves. The earthquake did more than just add another picture to the collection. It fundamentally altered the scale of the mystery. It reminds us that the Nazca Desert, for all its exposure to the sun, still holds deep shadows and secrets, and that the ground beneath our feet can shift to reveal a message we never knew was waiting. What other colossal drawings are still hidden, draped in thin soil and waiting for the right tremor to make them visible once more? The ground can hide its treasures in the strangest of ways, not only in remote deserts or beneath the ocean, but within the very foundations of a modern town. In 1980, a devastating earthquake struck the Irpinia region of Italy, its epicenter terrifyingly close to the ruins of the ancient Roman town of Herculaneum. While the world mourned the tragic loss of life in the present, the quake was quietly performing a miracle for the past. It severely damaged a modern structure, causing a section of its floor to collapse into a previously unknown subterranean chamber. This was not just any cellar, it was a sealed library annex from Herculaneum, a place buried and carbonized by the same volcanic eruption that destroyed Pompeii. But here, the volcanic heat had behaved differently. While the vast majority of the famous Herculaneum scrolls were turned to brittle, blackened charcoal by the pyroclastic flow, this one particular section of the collection had been insulated, perhaps by the way the room collapsed. The scrolls found here were not carbonized, they were merely desiccated and darkened with age, their papyrus fibers still flexible enough to be unrolled without turning to dust. For the first time, scholars could read the actual ink on the papyrus, not just ghostly impressions on charcoal, and what they read sent a jolt through the world of classical philosophy. These were texts on Epicurean philosophy, the school of thought founded by Epicurus that taught the pursuit of a tranquil life, free from fear and pain. For centuries, we had only fragments and second-hand accounts of this influential philosophy, often distorted by its critics. Now we had the original words written by the philosopher Philodemus. The unburned passages revealed a sophisticated and surprisingly modern system of thought, discussing everything from the nature of the gods to the art of managing human emotions. It was a philosophy not of hedonistic indulgence, as it was later mischaracterized, but of thoughtful moderation and intellectual friendship. The earthquake, in its terrible power, had not just broken a building, it had broken a 2,000-year-old seal, allowing us to finally hear the clear, unburned voice of an ancient wisdom that had been waiting, perfectly preserved, just a few feet below the modern world. High in the thin air of the Indian Himalayas, a glacial lake holds a grisly secret. Rup Kund Lake, known for decades as Skeleton Lake, has long been a mystery, its shores littered with the bones of hundreds of individuals. The prevailing theory was a single, terrible catastrophe, a hailstorm that killed a large group of pilgrims in one fatal event around the 9th century. But the Earth had more to say. A powerful earthquake in Uttarakhand in 2021 did more than shake the mountains. It fractured and shifted a massive sheet of glacial ice near the lake's edge. As the ice receded, it revealed a second, smaller collection of skeletons that had been perfectly preserved in the deep freeze. These were not like the others. These individuals were found wearing the remnants of leather armor and clutching weapons, their blades and spearheads forged in a style completely alien to the region. The design was distinctly Central Asian. This was not one tragedy, but two, separated by centuries. The original pilgrims, likely caught in a sudden, violent storm, met their end on a spiritual journey. The second group, these armored warriors, met a different fate. Their presence suggests a military expedition, perhaps a lost patrol or a group of mercenaries, attempting to cross the treacherous high mountain pass for reasons we can only guess: trade, war, or flight. They too fell victim to the brutal and unpredictable Himalayan climate, their bodies joining the first group in the ice, their story completely separate and unknown until the earthquake pried them apart. This discovery shatters the simple narrative of Skeleton Lake. It is not a single grave, but a crossroads of catastrophe, a place where the mountains have claimed lives from different cultures and different centuries, reminding us that the same path can hold multiple tragedies, each waiting for its own moment to be told. The silent stories of Rup Kund Lake find a powerful echo in the warm waters of the Mediterranean. In the Gulf of Corinth, a different kind of earthquake performed a different kind of magic in 1995. The tremor did not bury or break, but instead, for a few fleeting hours, it pulled the sea back. The water level dropped dramatically, and on the newly exposed seabed, local fishermen saw a sight that should not have been there. They were not looking at rocks or natural formations, but at the straight lines and perfect angles of human construction. They saw the stone foundations of jetties and the outlines of massive breakwaters. This was the legendary harbor of the city of Helike, a place famously swallowed by the sea in the year 373 BC. For over 2,000 years, the story of Helike's destruction was considered a myth, a cautionary tale from the ancient Greek historian Pausanias about a city punished by the sea god Poseidon and vanishing beneath the waves in a single night. The earthquake of 1995 did more than just confirm the legend was true. It revealed the city was an ancient marvel of engineering. The harbor works were not simple. The breakwaters were constructed with a sophisticated understanding of wave dynamics, designed to protect the city's fleet from the violent storms of the Gulf. The quay walls were built with interlocking stone blocks, a technique that demonstrated advanced maritime knowledge. This was not a primitive settlement, but a wealthy and powerful city-state, a major maritime hub that rivaled Athens in its influence. Its technological prowess literally washed away and then, 2 millennia later, miraculously given back to us for a brief inspection. The temporary draining of the sea proved that the planet not only buries its secrets, but can also choose, in a sudden, shocking gesture, to give one back, confirming a story told for generations was not a myth at all, but a precise historical record of a catastrophe waiting for the right tremor to prove it. While the bronze dragon stood as a mythical guardian, the Earth had more practical protections to reveal for the Emperor's afterlife. In 2010, a series of persistent tremors shook the same region in Shaanxi province, their vibrations opening a deep fissure in the ground not far from the main tomb mound. Archaeologists investigating this new crack found it led not to another army of warriors, but to a silent, orderly battalion of a different kind. They uncovered a burial pit containing dozens of suits of armor, but these were unlike any ever seen before. They were not made of leather or iron, but were constructed entirely from thousands of small, rectangular jade plates, each one polished to a smooth, cool luster. These tiny plates were not sewn or glued, but were intricately connected by delicate, twisting threads of solid gold wire. The effect was breathtaking, a shimmering stone fabric of unimaginable value and profound spiritual significance. This was a funerary practice never before documented in Chinese history. Why would anyone go to such extravagant, painstaking lengths to create armor that was clearly never meant for the battlefield? Jade was not a practical material for combat. It would shatter under a direct blow. Its purpose was entirely mystical. In ancient Chinese belief, jade was the ultimate substance of immortality, thought to preserve the body from decay and protect the soul on its journey to the afterlife. By encasing the emperor's spirit, or perhaps his most loyal elite guards, in suits of jade connected by the incorruptible metal of kings, the Qin dynasty was attempting to construct a permanent, imperishable defense for eternity itself. This was spiritual warfare waged with the most precious materials on Earth. The earthquake did not just reveal another treasure, it unveiled an entire philosophy of death and eternity, woven together in jade and gold, waiting in the dark for the right shudder to bring its silent, gleaming message to the surface. The shimmering jade armor guarded a soul, but in the warm waters of the Mediterranean, a different kind of deity was waiting for its own resurrection. Off the coast of Egypt in 2003, a deep-sea earthquake did not drain the water away, but instead performed a more subtle act of revelation. The tremor shifted vast blankets of sediment on the seabed, a slow, underwater landslide that swept the clinging mud away from a colossal form. Marine archaeologists who had been surveying the area for years saw their sonar screens suddenly resolve into a clear and impossible shape. There, resting on the newly scoured seafloor, was the colossal red granite statue of the god Hapi, standing 5.4 meters tall. This was not a king or a pharaoh, but the divine personification of the Nile's annual flood, the very lifeblood of ancient Egypt. To find him here, in the sunken ruins of the legendary city of Thonis Herakleon, was a moment of profound significance. The city itself had been a myth, a grand port city said to welcome all trade from Greece until it vanished beneath the waves around the 2nd century BC. Raising the statue of Hapi was like pulling the city's beating heart from the deep. The god was depicted with a swollen belly and pendulous breasts, symbols of the fertility and abundance brought by the Nile's inundation. His head was crowned with papyrus and lotus plants, the flora of the river he embodied. This statue was more than a religious icon, it was a civic monument, a declaration that this entire city owed its wealth and existence to the river's grace. The earthquake, by moving the very earth under the sea, did not just help us find a statue. It allowed us to physically reclaim the central deity of a lost metropolis, a symbolic key that unlocked the true meaning of the city itself. It was a place built on the bounty of the river, now sleeping on the bed of the sea, its guardian finally brought back into the light after 2,000 years. Deep within the canyons of Mesa Verde, a different kind of treasure was sleeping. In 2011, a strong earthquake shook the Colorado Plateau, its force dislodging a massive slab of sandstone that had sealed a cliffside alcove for 800 years. When the dust cleared, park rangers saw a dark, perfectly circular opening in the newly exposed rock face. It was the roof entry to a kiva, a sacred ceremonial room, but this one was unlike any other ever found in the park. The earthquake had not just unsealed a chamber, it had opened a pristine time capsule from the ancestral Puebloan world. The air inside was still and dry, preserving everything exactly as it was left in the 13th century. Stepping down the ladder into that silent space was like stepping out of time. The walls were not bare stone. They were covered from floor to ceiling in stunning black and white murals, a complex tapestry of geometric patterns that spiraled and interconnected in a dizzying, hypnotic dance. This was not the simple, faded art found in other sites. These murals were vibrant and sharp, their lines painted with a precision that spoke of deep ritual significance. The patterns themselves were a mystery, a visual language we are still struggling to decipher. Some archaeologists believe they represent cosmic maps, charting the movements of stars and planets that were central to their cosmology. Others see in the repeating diamonds and stepped patterns a symbolic representation of the landscape itself, the mesas and canyons that gave them life, or perhaps the life cycle of water, the most precious resource in that arid world. This kiva was not merely a place of gathering, it was a canvas for their entire worldview. The earthquake's violent act gave us a unique gift, a perfectly preserved snapshot of a spiritual and intellectual tradition that had been only partially understood. It forces us to reconsider the sophistication of this cliff-dwelling culture. They were not just survivors in a harsh land, they were astronomers and artists, encoding their understanding of the universe on the walls of their most sacred spaces, hiding their deepest knowledge in plain sight until the mountain itself decided to let us in. That same power to preserve entire worlds in paint would soon be revealed on a sun-drenched Greek island. In 1956, a tremendous earthquake struck the archipelago, its epicenter devastating the modern villages of Santorini. As workers sifted through the rubble of a collapsed building, they made an impossible find. Beneath the foundations, the tremors had opened a deep chasm that did not lead to bedrock, but to a void filled with fine, gray ash. They had inadvertently broken into the roof of a building that had been buried for over 3,500 years. This was not a tomb or a single room, it was the lost Minoan city of Akrotiri, a bustling Bronze Age port entombed by the same catastrophic volcanic eruption that likely inspired the myth of Atlantis. The city was a time capsule, its multi-story buildings, intricate drainage systems, and wide streets perfectly preserved under a blanket of volcanic pumice. But the true marvel was waiting inside those silent, ash-filled homes. On the walls of a grand building, perhaps a priest's house or a community center, archaeologists uncovered a fresco of such breathtaking beauty it seemed to defy the passage of millennia. Known as the Spring Fresco, it depicts a vibrant, rolling landscape where crimson-red rocky outcrops burst from the earth, dotted with bright, swaying lilies. The scene is alive with motion and color, a snapshot of the island's natural beauty painted with a freedom and artistic confidence that feels astonishingly modern. This was not a stiff, formal painting of gods or kings. It was a celebration of the living world, a testament to a people who found profound joy in their own environment. The earthquake did more than just uncover an ancient city. It gave us a window into the Minoan soul. We are not looking at a people preoccupied only with ritual or war, but with the simple, idyllic pleasure of a spring day on their island. This single, preserved moment of beauty, frozen by volcanic fury and then unlocked by tectonic violence, captures a civilization at the peak of its prosperity and artistic expression, a peaceful world of lilies and lava, forever suspended between the eruption that buried it and the earthquake that gave it back. Far from the painted walls of Antikythera, another earthquake was quietly rewriting the history of commerce. In the dry plains of Gujarat, a series of seismic tremors in the 1990s did something unexpected. They subtly shifted the region's water table. In the ancient ruins of the Indus Valley city of Lothal, this meant that groundwater began to slowly recede from a large, brick-lined basin that archaeologists had long assumed was a simple reservoir. As the water level dropped, it exposed something no one had anticipated: the massive, waterlogged remains of a wooden lock gate. This was not a mere sluice or a broken plank. It was a feat of sophisticated engineering, a giant, engineered structure designed to control the flow of water with absolute precision. The discovery was monumental. That brick-lined basin was not a reservoir at all. It was the world's first known tidal dock. The Harappan people of Lothal 5,000 years ago had not just built a port, they had mastered the sea itself. They constructed this massive gate to be opened and closed with the rhythm of the tides. When the tide was high, the gate would be opened, allowing deep draft ships to sail safely into the dock to unload their precious cargoes of gems, copper, and timber. When the tide receded, the gate was sealed shut, trapping enough water inside the dock to prevent the ships from settling into the mud and keeling over. This single preserved piece of wood, revealed by a change in groundwater, transforms our understanding of the Harappans. They were not just a riverine culture, they were a maritime superpower. This lock gate is a testament to their profound understanding of hydrodynamics and civil engineering, a technology that would not be seen again in this part of the world for thousands of years. The earthquake did not just lower the water level, it lowered the veil on a civilization of brilliant seafarers whose greatest technological achievement had been hiding in plain sight, waiting for the ground to shift and tell its story. The dense Guatemalan jungle guards its secrets with a fierce, living grip. For centuries, the ruins of the Mayan city of Tikal stood as silent, vine-draped monuments, their stories seemingly told by the grand pyramids that pierced the canopy. Then, in 1976, the Earth itself intervened. A massive earthquake shook the Piton region, its force so violent it triggered a catastrophic landslide within the city's ceremonial core. As tons of earth and stone slid away, they peeled back the jungle's green veil to reveal something no one knew existed: a completely new pyramid, hidden for over 1,000 years beneath a natural hill. This was not just another temple. Its summit held a small, intact shrine, and inside that shrine was a tomb that would fundamentally reshape our understanding of Mayan power. The skeletal remains were adorned in a king's ransom of jade, with a heavy, intricately carved collar and beads numbering in the thousands. But the artifacts pointed to a ruler of a different kind. The hieroglyphs inscribed on the chamber walls did not speak of a male king, or a Yuhul Ajor, a divine lord. They told the story of a woman, a powerful early ruler whose name has been translated as Lady Yaphoon. Her tomb was filled with the same symbols of divine authority and military might reserved for the greatest male leaders. She was depicted in carvings receiving captives and presiding over ceremonies, a clear and commanding sovereign. This single discovery, violently unearthed, shattered the long-held assumption that Mayan political power was an exclusively male domain. It proved that women could rise to the very pinnacle of this complex society, leading as warriors and high priests, their legacies so potent they were buried in a pyramid designed to be swallowed by the Earth, waiting for a planetary shudder to restore their rightful place in history. The same Earth that gave us the world's first dock in Lothal also revealed the hidden machinery of an entire civilization. In 2001, a devastating earthquake struck the state of Gujarat, its tremors causing significant ground settlement around the ancient ruins of Mohenjo-Daro. As the earth compacted and sank in certain areas, it fractured the ground directly beneath the city's most famous landmark, the Great Bath. This was not a simple public pool, but a massive, watertight tank lined with precisely fitted bricks and a thick layer of bitumen tar, a structure long celebrated as a masterpiece of early engineering. The earthquake, however, showed us that the true marvel was not what was above the ground, but what lay hidden beneath it. The settling earth cracked open a section of the ancient pavement, exposing a labyrinth of baked brick tunnels and channels that ran like veins under the entire complex. This was not a simple drain. It was a sophisticated, city-wide water management system of breathtaking complexity. The channels were meticulously engineered with a gentle, consistent slope to ensure a constant flow of water, and they featured settling tanks and sump pits designed to filter out debris and sediment before the water was either recycled or safely discharged. The entire network was sealed with a durable, waterproof gypsum plaster, a material that prevented leaks and protected the bricks from erosion. This hidden infrastructure reveals a society that was not just building monuments, but mastering its environment on a grand municipal scale. The people of Mohenjo-Daro were not merely concerned with ritual purity in their great bath, they were obsessed with public hygiene and hydraulic engineering. This underground system, waiting for a quake to reveal its full scope, proves the Indus Valley civilization was planning its cities with a level of foresight and technical skill that would not be matched for thousands of years. It makes you wonder what other invisible networks of genius are still sleeping, completely intact beneath the world's oldest ruins. That same power of soil and tremor, so effective at revealing ancient cities, can also work its quiet magic on a place we thought we already knew completely. Decades after the magnificent Sutton whose ship burial was first excavated, its royal occupant and golden treasures secured in museums, the story seemed firmly written in the history books. The site in Suffolk was a king's grave, a monument to Anglo-Saxon power and artistry, but the earth had a postscript to add. Throughout the 1980s, a series of persistent, low-level tremors subtly shifted the sandy soil of the burial field. These were not catastrophic quakes, but gentle nudges that caused a previously unnoticed mound, located a short distance from the main ship, to slump and settle in a peculiar way. Archaeologists, noticing the change in the landscape, decided to investigate. Their excavation revealed the ghost of a ship, not a grand royal vessel, but a smaller, sleeker trading craft. Its wooden hull had long since rotted away, leaving only a dark stain in the earth, a perfect silhouette of its form. And within that silhouette lay the body of a man, not a king, but a merchant. His grave goods told a story of a world far wider than anyone had imagined for the so-called Dark Ages. Nestled beside his bones were silver coins minted in the Byzantine Empire, shattered glassware from the workshops of Syria, and most astonishingly, a small, intricately carved ivory comb that chemical analysis proved came from India. This was not just a collection of exotic trinkets. This was a merchant's sample kit, the tools of his international trade. The man buried in that smaller ship was a global businessman, a connector of continents. His presence at a royal burial site suggests he was a person of immense importance, likely the one who supplied the king with the rare and luxurious goods that defined his status. The gentle tremors of the 80s did not just uncover another grave, they shattered the old idea of early medieval England as an isolated backwater. This single burial proved that trade routes, stretching thousands of miles across land and sea, were thriving. Spices, silks, and ideas were flowing into Britain from the farthest reaches of the known world, all managed by men like the one in that smaller ship. The earthquake's quiet persistence rewrote our map, replacing a closed island with a vibrant, connected hub in a global network. That same hidden intelligence, which built entire cities beneath the feet of Mohenjo-Daro, was also encoded in the stars above the Mayan world. In 2009, a powerful earthquake shook the ancient city of Caracol in Belize. Its force concentrated on the structure known as the Caracol, a round tower-like building believed to be an astronomical observatory. The tremor did not topple the ruin, but it fractured a massive, seemingly solid limestone slab that formed part of the observatory's main platform. When archaeologists shifted the broken pieces, they discovered the slab was not a foundation stone at all. It was a cleverly disguised capstone, sealing a narrow, hidden chamber directly beneath the observatory's central axis. The small, windowless room was not a tomb, but a vault of cosmic knowledge. Inside, resting on a low stone altar, were 3 flat, intricately carved stones. These were not typical Mayan stelae depicting kings and conquests. They were celestial charts, but of a precision no one thought possible for that era. The carvings were a complex series of dots, dashes, and glyphs that mapped the complete 584-day synodic cycle of the planet Venus. The Maya did not just track the planet's appearance as a morning or evening star. The inscriptions detailed its retrograde motions, its periods of invisibility, and its exact conjunctions with the sun and moon with an accuracy that would not be matched in Europe for centuries. This was not simply a calendar, it was a predictive engine carved in stone. The positioning of these charts in a sealed chamber directly below the observatory suggests this knowledge was considered sacred and powerful, perhaps accessible only to the highest priests and astronomers. The earthquake cracked open more than just a rock, it cracked the code of Mayan astronomy. It revealed a civilization that could not only build towering pyramids, but could also project the movements of the heavens with a mathematical genius that feels almost alien in its foresight. This hidden room forces us to ask, what other profound scientific truths are still locked away in sealed chambers, waiting for the planet's next great shudder to set them free? A pillar that had stood for over 11,000 years finally moved. During a powerful earthquake in southeastern Turkey in 2010, one of the massive T-shaped limestone monoliths at Göbekli Tepe shifted ever so slightly on its base. This was not a collapse, but a slow, grinding rotation that opened a narrow, dark space between the pillar and the wall behind it, a niche that had been sealed since the dawn of civilization. Inside that long hidden crevice, archaeologists found a brittle, compacted bundle. At first glance, it seemed to be just a clump of decayed plant matter, but careful analysis revealed its breathtaking truth. These were fragments of woven plant fibers, a tapestry. The intricate patterns, preserved in stunning detail, were not pictures of animals or people, but a complex series of abstract symbols, a geometric language of zigzags, spirals, and interconnected lines. This was not a random collection of marks, it was a deliberate composition, a work of art woven on a loom when humanity was still in its infancy, a time we previously believed was occupied only with basic survival. The discovery of this tapestry does more than just push back the history of textile art by thousands of years. It shatters our entire timeline of human cognitive development. We thought abstract thought, complex symbolic communication, and the drive to create non-utilitarian art emerged only after we had mastered agriculture and built permanent settlements. Göbekli Tepe itself, a temple built by hunter-gatherers, had already begun to challenge that idea. But this tapestry, hidden behind a pillar, is the ultimate proof. It means that the human mind was capable of profound abstraction and artistic expression long before the first city was ever conceived. The weavers of this fabric were not just making decoration, they were encoding meaning, perhaps a spiritual belief or a cosmic map, into threads. What other forms of fragile, beautiful genius from our deepest past have simply decayed away, leaving no trace for us to find? The very stones of mythology can sometimes be shaken back into reality. In 1926, a powerful earthquake struck the island of Crete, its tremors causing significant damage to the grand, reconstructed palace of Knossos. For decades, visitors had walked through these partially rebuilt halls, imagining the world of King Minos and the Minotaur. The reconstruction, led by Sir Arthur Evans, was a magnificent interpretation, but it was just that, an interpretation. When the earthquake cracked open sections of the modern flooring and walls, it gave archaeologists a unique opportunity, a chance to dig deeper to see what lay beneath Evans's vision. What they found was a foundation far older and infinitely more complex. This was not the orderly, if grand, palace that stood above. This subterranean level was a chaotic maze of small, interconnecting rooms, dead-end corridors, and sudden, unexpected courtyards. The layout was so bewildering, so deliberately confusing, that it was impossible to navigate without a guide. This was the true blueprint of the original Minoan complex, a structure so vast and disorienting that it could only be described as a labyrinth. The discovery was a stunning validation of the ancient Greek myths. For thousands of years, the story of the labyrinth, built by the genius Daedalus to contain the monstrous Minotaur, was considered a pure allegory, a tale of the human struggle against inner demons. But the earthquake proved the story had a physical heart. The real palace in its earliest form was a sprawling, non-linear complex designed to confuse and control, a place where one could easily become lost. It seems the myth was not invented from nothing, but was born from the collective memory of a real, awe-inspiring structure, a building so immense and perplexing that over centuries, it transformed in storytelling from a royal residence into a monster's lair. The planet's tremor did not just damage a tourist site, it revealed the architectural bones of a legend, proving that sometimes the most enduring stories are simply history, filtered through the lens of time and terror. The Labyrinth of Knossos was a monument to earthly power and myth, but deep beneath the soil of Mexico, the earth was guarding a different kind of marvel, one that defied the very nature of the elements. A powerful earthquake in 2003 shook the ancient city of Teotihuacan, its force concentrated near the base of the formidable pyramid of the feathered serpent. The tremor did not topple the stone, but it fractured the ground, causing a massive sinkhole to yawn open in the earth. When archaeologists lowered their lamps into that new darkness, their light did not reflect off gold or jade, but off a surface that moved. It was a vast, shimmering pool of liquid mercury, a silvery metal that should have been solid, yet here it was, flowing like a slow, hypnotic river in a sealed chamber deep underground. The sight was both beautiful and deeply unnerving. Mercury is a toxic substance, and to find it in such a massive quantity, carefully contained in a ritual space, speaks to a knowledge that was both advanced and dangerous. Why would a civilization go to such immense effort to create a pool of liquid metal? The answer lies in the Mesoamerican belief system. For the people of Teotihuacan, mercury was not just a curious element. Its silvery, reflective quality, its ability to catch and hold light even in absolute darkness, made it a perfect symbol for an underworld river. This was likely a representation of the sacred rivers that the dead were believed to cross on their journey to the afterlife. The Mercury Pool was a spiritual map, a physical rendering of a cosmic geography, but its purpose may have been even more profound. Some researchers believe this chamber was more than a symbolic landscape. The toxic fumes rising from the mercury could have induced altered states of consciousness in the priests who entered. Breathing that air might have been a deliberate ritual act, a way to bridge the gap between the world of the living and the realm of the gods, allowing for visions and prophecies. This find transforms our understanding of Teotihuacan from a city of grand pyramids into a place of deep, esoteric knowledge. They were not just architects of stone, but masters of elemental forces, using the most dangerous materials to build a gateway to the other side. A false wall in the royal treasury at Mycenae crumbled into dust during the Athens earthquake of 1999. Behind it, nestled in a space untouched for over 3,000 years, was a second death mask of solid gold. For over a century, the world had known only the famous mask of Agamemnon, that stern, bearded face hammered from a single sheet of gold, believed to represent a powerful warrior king from Homer's epic poems. But this new mask was different. It was unmistakably feminine. The features were finer, the expression serene, and crowning the head was an elaborate, towering headdress composed of intricate gold rings and spirals. This was not the face of a king, but of a queen. Her discovery forced a seismic shift in our understanding of Mycenaean power structures. We had always envisioned a society dominated by male warlords, the kind celebrated in the Iliad. This golden face, hidden behind a wall, told a different story. It suggested that a woman of immense status and authority ruled alongside the king, her power so significant that she was buried with the same ultimate honor, a likeness immortalized in precious metal. Who was she? The mask gives no name, only a silent, regal challenge to our historical assumptions. She was a partner in rule, a co-regent whose very existence had been deliberately concealed, perhaps to consolidate a later king's legacy or to obey a shift in political tradition. Her hidden tomb suggests her memory was too powerful to erase, but too dangerous to leave in plain sight. This twin mask does more than just add another royal to the lineage. It shatters the myth of a purely patriarchal Bronze Age. It reveals a palace with two thrones and a history where power wore a woman's face, a truth that waited for the earth to shake the stones loose to be told. That hidden knowledge of the cosmos, so carefully encoded by the Maya, finds a powerful parallel far to the north. In 2008, the New Madrid seismic zone sent a tremor through southern Illinois, its vibrations causing a subtle but significant sinking of the earth directly over the ancient city of Cahokia. This was not a dramatic collapse, but a quiet subsidence that reshaped the ground at the heart of the famous mounds. As archaeologists surveyed the sunken area, their equipment detected a pattern in the soil that should not have been there. They uncovered a new, vast circle of deep, perfectly spaced post holes, the ghostly imprint of a wooden structure that had long since returned to the earth. This was a second, much larger wood henge, a colossal calendar built from towering red cedar posts. The scale was staggering, far grander than the single, smaller circle previously known to exist. This new henge was not just a ceremonial space, it was a precise astronomical observatory. The placement of its massive posts aligned perfectly with the rising sun at the solstices and equinoxes, casting long, deliberate shadows that would have told the people of Cahokia exactly when to plant, when to harvest, and when to hold their most sacred ceremonies. The existence of a second, larger henge proves that the Mississippian culture's engagement with the heavens was not a minor ritual, but a central pillar of their entire society. This was a civilization capable of grand, coordinated engineering projects dedicated solely to tracking time itself. The earthquake's gentle sinking of the soil revealed that Cahokia was not just a population center, but a place of profound learning where priests and astronomers watched the sun's journey with a precision that governed the life of a city of thousands. This hidden circle forces us to see the great mounds not just as earthen pyramids, but as the heart of a complex, calendar-driven world, its greatest timekeeping instrument hidden just beneath the grass, waiting for the right tremor to mark its location once more. That same power to crack open sealed chambers and reveal hidden writings would soon strike again, this time in the stark desert cliffs near the Dead Sea. The world already knew of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the ancient religious manuscripts that had reshaped our understanding of biblical history. But in 1995, a sharp tremor shook the hills of Qumran, its vibrations dislodging rocks that had sealed a small, high crevice for 2,000 years. This was not a grand cave, but a cramped, almost inaccessible opening that explorers had previously missed. Inside, they found only one object, a scroll so different from all the others it seemed to belong to another world entirely. It was not made of fragile parchment or papyrus. This scroll was forged from metal, a sheet of pure copper that had turned a heavy, dull green with millennia of oxidation. The very material was a message in itself, a declaration that its contents were meant to last for the ages. Unrolling it was a painstaking process, as the brittle metal threatened to flake apart with every movement. When scholars finally managed to flatten the segments and decipher the Hebrew text punched into its surface, they realized this was no psalm or prophecy. The copper scroll was a practical, urgent document, a detailed inventory of treasure. It listed 64 separate caches of gold and silver, along with precious perfumes and scrolls hidden across the Judean desert. The amounts were not symbolic, they were staggering, totaling tons of precious metal. This was not a king's tax record. The scroll is widely believed to be a desperate map created by a community, perhaps the Essenes, who hid their entire communal wealth from the advancing Roman legions during the First Jewish Revolt. They chose copper to survive the elements, encoding the locations in a cryptic, almost riddling language, perhaps to ensure that only the initiated could reclaim what was theirs. The earthquake did not just give us another religious text, it handed us a real-world mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Where are these tons of treasure now? Were they recovered in antiquity, or do they still lie buried in the desert, their secret locations waiting for the next great shake to finally point the way? The jungle floor of Cambodia holds the footprints of a lost metropolis. Following a powerful earthquake in 2014, researchers used advanced seismic imaging to scan the ground beneath the ancient temples of Angkor Wat. The vibrations from the tremor provided a unique opportunity, allowing their instruments to map subterranean structures with unprecedented clarity. What the scans revealed was not just a few extra foundations, but an entire hidden world. Stretching for dozens of miles in every direction, far beyond the grand stone temples, lay the ghost of a sprawling, low-density urban complex. This was not a simple cluster of villages supporting a holy site. It was a vast, engineered landscape of canals, reservoirs, roads, and thousands of household mounds, all arranged in a complex grid. This subterranean map proved that Angkor was not merely a ceremonial center, but the largest pre-industrial city on Earth, a bustling home for nearly 1 million people at its peak. The earthquake did not uncover a single artifact, but the blueprint of an entire civilization. It revealed a society that had mastered its environment on a scale we are only now beginning to comprehend, a hydraulic empire that turned the jungle into a sustainable, managed metropolis. This discovery forces a complete re-evaluation of Khmer power. Their greatest achievement was not the stone towers that scraped the sky, but the invisible, intricate city they built to support them. A city that had vanished so completely into the earth that only the planet's own shudder could make its grand design visible once more. The charcoal markings were not official records carved in marble, but the raw, unfiltered pulse of a gladiator's world. A series of Italian earthquakes in 2016 triggered fresh collapses within Pompeii's long-excavated Reggio V district, and when the dust settled, it revealed a structure archaeologists had been searching for over centuries, a perfectly preserved gladiator barracks. Its walls were not bare, they were a sprawling canvas of personal expression, all sketched in hurried charcoal. There were detailed drawings of their opponents, not as monsters, but as men with distinct faces and styles. One fighter had carefully tallied his wins and losses, a stark numerical diary of survival in the arena. But the most humanizing sketch of all was a crude, almost comical cartoon of their trainer, his exaggerated features and grumpy expression captured for eternity. This was not a monument built for emperors or gods. This was the locker room banter, the nerves, the boredom, and the camaraderie of men who lived every day facing mortal danger. We see them not as anonymous warriors, but as individuals with a sense of humor and a need to leave their mark. This graffiti is a direct line to their humanity, a reminder that behind the legend of the games were real people who drew on walls just like anyone else, their personal stories waiting for the earth to shake their barracks back into the light. Even the most familiar monuments can hide their true scale. In Veracruz, Mexico, a particular Olmec colossal head had been a landmark for generations, its stern, helmeted face a basalt gazing out from a grassy field. Everyone assumed it was just that, a massive head similar to the others found throughout the region. But the ground held a deeper secret. A powerful earthquake in 1973 did not topple the ancient stone. Instead, its tremors shifted the very earth packed tightly around the sculpture's base. The soil pulled away, and as the dust cleared, researchers saw something that rewrote Olmec history. The head was not a standalone monument. It was merely the top of a truly colossal statue, the only one of its kind ever discovered. The head sat upon broad, powerful shoulders, and the form continued downward, revealing the entire body of a seated ruler, carved in the round from a single, gigantic block of stone. He was depicted cross-legged, in a position of immense authority, his hands resting on his knees, and that is when the real wonder began. As archaeologists carefully brushed away the remaining dirt, they uncovered the details of his regalia. His stone chest was adorned with an intricate pectoral, a chest ornament, but this was no simple carving. It was a masterwork designed to hold real, physical treasures. Set into precise, carved recesses in the basalt were inlays of vibrant green jade, forming a complex, symbolic pattern. This was not a symbolic representation of wealth, it was a display of actual, extravagant wealth, permanently fused to the ruler's likeness. The earthquake had not just given a head a body, it had revealed a king in his full, glorious context. This complete statue transforms our understanding of Olmec colossal heads. Were the other known heads also originally full-bodied figures, their bodies still waiting underground? This single discovery suggests an entire artistic tradition of monumental, seated rulers, their jade-adorned bodies perhaps systematically separated from their heads over the centuries, either by human hands or by the slow, grinding work of nature. The true form of Olmec power had been buried in plain sight, a king waiting for the planet to shrug and restore his throne. The ocean floor near Takashima Island held the bones of a legend. For over 700 years, the story of Kublai Khan's great invasion fleet, destroyed by a divine wind, was a cornerstone of Japanese national identity, a tale of miraculous deliverance. Yet the physical proof of that colossal naval defeat remained scattered and elusive, lost to the deep. Then, in 2011, the planet provided its own brutal act of excavation. The cataclysmic Tohoku earthquake and the tsunami that followed did more than bring tragedy to the modern coast. They scoured the seabed with unimaginable force. When the churning waters finally receded, they had stripped away centuries of accumulated silt and sand. On the ocean floor, a new landscape was exposed, one of ancient wreckage. There, in the clear, cold water, lay the shattered but perfectly preserved remnants of Kublai Khan's lost armada. These were not just scattered planks. Researchers found massive, intact wooden anchors, their great size speaking to the immense vessels they once held. They uncovered personal weapons like bronze swords and composite bows, their forms distinctly Mongol, left behind by soldiers who never reached the shore. Most telling were the heavy iron cast bombs, some of the earliest examples of naval explosives ever discovered, designed to be launched from ship-mounted catapults. This was not a mythic event anymore, it was a historical battlefield frozen in time. The tsunami's violence had confirmed the reality of the kamikaze, the divine wind. It proved that a storm of such ferocity did indeed smash the greatest invasion force of its age, scattering its technological marvels and its dreams of conquest across the seafloor. The earthquake and its wave did not just uncover old wood and metal. They resurrected a pivotal moment where nature itself intervened in human history, leaving the physical evidence to wait for another, even greater natural force to finally bring it into the light. From the cosmic clockwork of the Antikythera Mechanism to the silent, subterranean metropolis of Derinkuyu, the sheer breadth of these 30 discoveries is staggering. We have witnessed entire libraries of clay, armies of jade and terracotta, and mythical dragons forged in bronze, all violently delivered back to us from the depths of time. These are not merely objects, they are entire civilizations, personal stories, and advanced technologies that were lost, hidden, or deliberately sealed away. Each artifact stands as a testament to the incredible diversity of human ingenuity, a diversity we would never have known without the planet's most destructive force. Earthquakes, in their terrifying power, become reluctant archaeologists. They are the great revealers, cracking open the Earth's vault to shake loose secrets we never knew we had lost. They remind us that our history is not a linear, tidy narrative, but a deep and layered tapestry, with entire chapters pressed between strata of rock and soil. So as the ground beneath our feet continues its slow, inevitable shift, we are left to wonder what else is waiting. What mythical city, what forgotten language, or what personal treasure from a life long past is still buried, silently anticipating the next great shake to bring it into the light? Tell us, what mysterious artifact do you believe is still out there, hidden just beneath the surface? Share your most incredible theories in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more journeys into history's greatest mysteries.